Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. It is a Tuesday in August, and of course, it's raining in Buffalo, typical. I have to say this. There are many signs of the unoriginality of Hollywood and the media when it comes to the shows and TV shows and the movies that come up. Like, remember the great remake of Chips? What was the Ben Stiller, Owen Wolf? Oh, Starsky and Hutch. I mean, just really
bad. She's all that, he's all that. I get it.
Just really bad, crappy movies. The Magnum PI thing and Hawaii Five-0 on CBS are abominations. They should be whoever brought that idea should be shot.
I'll give you another one.
And the late.
I'll give you another one for me.
And the latest. Let's see if we're on the same page here, Anthony. Is Fantasy Island. Mr. Rourke is now Miss Rourke. It's a rather attractive Hispanic lady to replace Ricardo Montalban.
Like the granddaughter?
I know. Probably. I won't waste a minute of my time watching this hunk of crap. But it's just.
Hervé Villachet made that show. Like,
what are they going to do? Like a 12-year-old girl as the
you can't replace that.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Russ.
That was the charm. So let's talk about a good series. There's actually a good series out there, Mike, a good original series.
Okay.
And it's about wrestling, and it's called Heel, and it's on Starz Network. And the guy who played Arrow, Stephen Amell, is the star in it. And he actually did do a little bit of wrestling. He got involved in his last year of Arrow. I think he jumped into a couple matches. And I have to tell you, they really... in the first episode, they have really nailed the psychological element of wrestling. In other words, what the wrestlers act like before they get in the ring, what they're looking for in their career. We all look at everything and say, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy, and it's very simple.
For those who aren't familiar with kayfabe, right?
What?
It defines kayfabe finally for those.
Yes, it defines kayfabe that has been going around for that term has been going around for 50 years. So they define that. But it's interesting because I think they took what Mickey Rourke did with the wrestler to the next level now and had given an explanation as to how the wrestlers are when they're in the locker room, how they get mad at the promoter. It's really well done. Amel's a good actor. And I have to say, the first episode was excellent. It really was good.
One of the other actors in it too is I think he plays his brother, Alexander Ludwig. He was in Vikings. He was in Vikings.
So. Oh, he was in Vikings. I saw a little bit of that.
Yeah, okay. His head was shaved in Vikings, whereas in this,
he's very good in this.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out. And
Maureen McCormick's in it. She was in the Howard Stern movie and a few things.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
they had in The West Wing too. So
yeah, so they. It's McCormack, right? Not McCormick, but
and
whatever.
She was in that classic hockey movie with Russell Crowe. What was that?
Yeah. Alaska.
But this is a good series. This really has done a nice job. This is another good offshoot series.
Yeah, well, the movie The Wrestler was really good, but it was very dark and very.
Right. That was what I was going to say. I get the impression, at least from the trailers, that this isn't quite as dark, but it does do. But
there's a little dark side, like the guy
the wrestler was really kind of designed to be.
The wrestler who used to play Raven is in it, and he's a little dark in this. But he is, even as a wrestler, he was kind of dark, so it makes sense.
Okay, let's start the show. Ack. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. No, you're muted.
Muted. Mute.
Right.
On. There you go.
Sorry.
You meant to do that. We know.
Yeah. I thought it was best to mute myself. My opinions. Here we go. Hello. Been a day. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, August 17th, 2021.
The plane.
Oh,
I'm
no.
Jello.
I'm Anthony Mingione.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. And I'm Equalizer, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings, goings in the hockey world. And Mike, are you referring to the Fantasy Island?
Yes.
Reboot?
the new abomination, Fantasy Island. Zippity doo dah. I mean, just that thing will be on for 6 weeks and then go into the friggin' recycle bin. It's such a piece of crap.
Oh, yeah. Well, like the first one wasn't freaky enough as it was. I mean, the first one as a kid does totally wigged me out. I thought it was Fantasy Island was just the worst place. You should never go to Fantasy Island if you remember.
Mike's only given it one.
There was always this sort of like You're right, Eck.
There was like an evil twist.
There's an undercurrent.
Yeah.
There was always this sort of like dark undercurrent to it.
There was something dark, but I did want to say Michael only gave that one gray shirt. That was the way he grazed them.
It was like if your fantasy was like to become a season ticket holder in the NHL, and you get there and you're given a ticket to the Coyotes or something like that.
And you're sitting you're sitting behind a stand at the old
yeah, that was kind of mean.
And just so people could understand, so the Equalizer gets 4 gray shirts.
5.
We're going in so many different directions here at once. Anyway, okay, so yes,
and not the Queen Latifah piece of crap. I'm talking about the original,
the classic.
The classic Equalizer. When the Equalizer, who was an old, the Equalizer, who was a 70-year-old Englishman, not
fighting crime,
reeling it in.
Mike's
okay.
There you go, bring it in.
Advertisements. You know them and love them. They keep our website alive, and they're a happy thing indeed. We're about to come to the NHL very soon to a theater near you, and now the NHL today, the owners have approved a 3-inch by 3.5-inch logo, which is slightly bigger than that of the NBA. But this, to be fair, the NHL jerseys are, there's a lot more real estate on them than NBA jerseys, although maybe not, because the NBA jerseys are on 6'9" guys. They're pretty huge, but in reality, there seems to be more size. But yes, so they're going with this jersey. I think it was an inevitability. There you go. How about that?
Well,
it was inevitable and an inevitability that this would happen.
The question is where on the jersey it's going to be. It's not going to be on the sleeve. It's probably going to be like if the players.
It's going to be right here. I guarantee.
Right. And you know what? Okay. Last year, we know that the advertisement on the helmets was whoever the advertiser was for the arena, like Scotiabank for the Flames and the Leafs.
Not necessarily.
Well, in most of the instances, yes, they were. But what about Philadelphia?
But for other teams, there were other sponsors that were on the helmets. The Flyers had somebody completely different from the arena.
Right.
For Buffalo, it was KeyBank.
I've seen one. I have a model of it here. Someone sent me this morning. I do believe that this is exactly how it's going to look. And this is the idea here. So here we go. This is this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be like this. It's going to have a nice little logo on there that's going to be right ready to go, and it'll be non-obtrusive. It'll have something to do with the team, and so my challenge is this. As I was doing this morning, I'm doing it with my son, who's like an incredible pun guy. Like he just is just beyond belief with puns. He says, you need to put it out there to your fan base. Don't take that mic off. Mike, you're not allowed to turn off my pictures when I share a photo. You know the rules. All right. Anyway, no. He said you need to find the perfect ironic advertiser for each hockey team based on what they're going through.
I agree.
So I'm putting that out. I'm gonna put this meme out to people on Twitter right now, and I want to hear like the perfect. To me, I can't believe it's not butter. Really does fit the Toronto Maple Leafs.
No, it doesn't.
Because I can't believe they're not better.
No, the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres will definitely be sponsored by Alan Walsh.
Yeah, we should put that. You should put the logo of his agency on there. That'd be pretty funny.
Here's the downside of it, and we don't know the answer yet, and we're already hearing the apologists on Twitter. Me personally, I would not buy a jersey with advertising on it, and I also don't want to buy one where I have to remove the stitching and hope I don't ruin my jersey. To get the
you can order the jersey without the logo. It's going to be.
So is it going to cost me more now?
You're going to be like buying a Kindle, like you get like it's going to.
Okay, but hold on.
Get like $100 off if you're.
I don't know if they charge for that though, Russ. I don't know.
Is it going to cost me more to have now no advertising?
How do you know that?
That's going to be another factor in this.
Add a patch versus not adding a patch. It would strike me as that they would not cost as much.
Yeah, but
Now, if you're going to go the way of soccer, and there are some EPL teams, some teams in Europe that the actual emblem is like the sponsor. There's an airline. I mean, okay, that's going too far. If
they won't do that,
right?
But who's to say this year it's this, in 2 years it's that, and before you know it, you've got 5 or 6 on there.
Yeah, I mean, it could go that way. I get the feeling that, because this is Canada, because there's so many Canadians involved in this, that it won't be that crazy, that they'll keep it relatively calm. But, at the same point right now, I mean, whatever the NHL needs to do to get the salary cap moving in the right direction again would be a good idea. I mean, honestly, the reality is, we played a league that has always struggled, to really make it. It played 2 years without any income at all. So I don't blame them at all for doing this. Really, I really don't.
If you're going to think about a proper sponsor for the Leafs being serious and not the I can't believe it's not butter bull crap, it would be something like Air Canada or Maple Leaf Foods or something like that. It would blend, and they're very conscious about.
It would be a donut shop, either Tim Hortons.
It could be Tim Hortons.
But again, here's my issue is this. I don't want to buy something to help you advertise. I just want something of the team that I like or the event that I like. If it's advertising is coming on it, that turns me off. Like, as an example, the other day when they had that Field of Dreams game, they showed the 1919 White Sox and you had the Nike swoosh. Well, I mean, again, you couldn't take off the Nike swoosh just for that one game. Right. That was like, this whole throwback
branding opportunity.
Whole point.
Come on.
I know, but that's the idea is.
Russ, I think it's being unrealistic. I think, honestly.
I think sales will go down. I think there are going to be people that are like me. I don't think I'm.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably going to be in the minority.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're going to be in the minority in this case. Again, Nike isn't going to lose an opportunity like this. The leagues right now, considering the revenue lost last season, I'll actually say, Eck, in this case, I know you're saying it wasn't an inevitability. I think it was leaning that way.
Well, I mean, even before this, it's like the jersey. If the jersey was made by Coho or Reebok, that was on the jersey. It was on a patch. So
we've all gotten used to that, Mike. I get that.
Right. I mean, all it means now is it's going to be more prominent on the jersey. I mean, okay, do I like it? No.
What if I don't like the advertiser that my team has aligned with?
Then you can get it.
That is an issue.
So you're not happy about it.
Yeah, that is going to be an issue. Teams are going to have to be a little bit careful about that. About who they take on. I mean, you don't want to take on controversial advertisers.
I'm definitely not.
You do have to canvas in advance. That's the one thing that teams do need to do.
That's true. I agree with that.
I'm definitely
with a Barstool logo on it. That might be a concern.
I'm definitely thinking that something like Papa John's or Subway, that teams will stay away from those.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, but then again, those things change. Like Subway was fine a little while ago, and now it's not. So it's like
Papa John's was bad a while back, and now Shaquille O'Neal owns a bunch of them.
Saying in this circumstance, it depends on how the brand is viewed. It's as much again about the teams. The teams are they're the advertising board here. They have to be very conscious of what they're going to put on their jersey.
Well,
you want a balance of the of the bidder, but you also have to consider your overall image as a team.
I wonder whether these teams will go for big brands like, say, Coca-Cola or something like that, or
I think so.
Will the big brand go for them?
Exactly. Right.
There's so many different Coke advertises in so many different. There's so many different kinds of obviously we're not going to get into that. I took a lot of advertising courses in college and stuff like that and different things. We're not going to get into that, but there's different ways. There's different reasons.
Scenario,
yeah.
Let's say you have a child at home. Anthony has young kids, not as young as some others, but young kids, and it's the gambling company.
Why are your kids young enough?
Let's say FanDuel.
But it's unavoidable anyway. If you're watching the broadcast, it's all.
What if you're a family that doesn't want to gamble?
Hey,
all of a sudden
you're not going to watch the game. You might as well not watch the game on television.
Yeah, it's going to be on there, right?
There you go.
But then again, like you say, if you can't buy a jersey, if the logo has to be on the jersey. Now, see, when you look in soccer, you can't buy a jersey without the logos on it.
Right?
Yeah, you can.
Can you?
Yeah, and they give you the option of
do they? Okay, I didn't think that. I've never seen that.
You're going to get just the logo is going to the team logo is now crested small,
Well,
but it's going to be blank on the front now.
There's
they'll take the team logo off too.
No, the team logo. The way it works is that
okay. Anthony, finish. Anthony, finish, please. Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
The ad is on the main part of the chest, and then the crest. That's the big thing that's happened in European soccer is the fact that the logo now is where the NHL ad would be is now the team logo with the large ad. I'm not on board with that.
No,
I accept it in soccer because it's been around. They've for years.
There's
you have a chance to have an ad. It's got to be something that cannot be something that overrides the crest of the main crest of the jersey.
There's the perfect advertising there. FanDuel for the San Jose Sharks on Vander Kane's jersey. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, you see that. See, now you're getting into the spirit of this. No, I think. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I do think, yeah, sure. If your kids are, you might not want your 10-year-old kid walking around with a FanDuel jersey on. But listen,
That's
I mean, but gambling. I mean, we've all talked about this offline, Russ, about like our websites have been approached for years about advertising from gambling sites, and I avoided it for years because I thought. Too. Yeah, you did too, and I thought, this is just, and I at one point went to the NHL and said, "What are your opinions on this?" And they said you should avoid it at all costs. I wish I had kept that recording of that thing because obviously years later,
that was about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Yes,
they bought in. I mean, they bought in now officially.
Now they're going to have gambling stations at arenas.
Now they already have those already. Now
in New Jersey.
Right now, Michael, I'm looking at the NBA because again, let's face it, they're the precursors for the NHL here. So as I'm looking through current sponsorships, I do not see any sports gambling websites that I see on here. The closest thing I'm seeing, again, nothing really in this circumstance other than Lending Tree or something like that, or PayPal. But nothing that involves gambling. And I think the teams have to make sure that they do not. That's got to be a rule again, this circumstance. But again, I think they're getting the revenue anyway because you have a lot of sports betting going on anyway. They're already official league sponsors.
But
so the teams aren't going to get.
That's different. That doesn't mean you should. You want your kids parading around with that on a shirt. That's all I was saying.
You do recognize the fact that the NBA is a completely different animal because they're getting multi-billions a year in television contracts, and the NHL is getting 500, 600 million on the new deal. So
I'm accounting for that, but there are other options other than sports betting sites. And again, since the league is already partnered, and teams are already getting a cut of that, there's no need to put a sponsor on a sports betting site sponsor on the jersey. You have to be careful. Again, as a large entity as the NHL may be, it's one thing. When you're getting into the individual teams, that's where I think.
And Anthony brings up an interesting question here. Will the NHL have a limitation on who you can advertise with for each particular team? Like, okay, you can't, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, have Viagra as your, because it's a V. You can't have that as your advertisement. But
medications. I'm looking actually now. Once again, there are no. I will say this: the medication definitely is not on there.
I thought there was one in soccer. I don't know why, but maybe I'm wrong. I might be.
Yeah, I'm drawing based off of the NBA again in this circumstance. The NBA is the closest analog here for what the NHL is doing.
It's hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, I know. But the thing about what's interesting about soccer is, people probably they like I was in when I lived in Marseille. I remember Panasonic sponsored the Marseille soccer team. We went there a lot and went to a bunch of those games. It's a phenomenal thing. And when I bought a Marseille jersey, I would have not bought it if Panasonic wasn't on it because it becomes a part of those teams' logos. And at least in soccer, I think, to the point where it's like, without it, it's not a Marseille jersey.
Now I see the sponsorships in because I follow European soccer. The sponsorships change very quickly now, and it kind of forces to. And they change their jerseys, design. The colors may stay the same, but the designs of the jerseys change every single season. They swap jersey designs out like F1 teams swap out liveries in the cars.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wasn't sure which one it was, but and I'll mispronounce the airline, but is it Etihad Airways?
Etihad, yeah.
Etihad. They sponsor Manchester City, and they have for the last.
They have for years because the guy who owns the team, the Sheikh, has controlling interest in Etihad, so they're going to remain on there. Whereas other independent clubs, whose owners may not be tied into those other businesses, they're going to be constantly changing their sponsorship, to whoever's the highest bidder every year.
And will there be a rule that, say, for example, the Leafs are owned by TSN and Sportsnet? Now there's split ownership, so they wouldn't. But if a team was owned by an entity like Manchester City would they prevent them from advertising their own company as the advertiser?
It's a good question.
Because there would be no revenue there. It would be the whole purpose of this is bringing in additional ad revenue. So I mean, a number of questions.
Again, the question is this being done on certain lanes and certain rails?
Yes.
Where there's lines, or is this the Wild West?
Yeah.
Where everybody's just doing whatever the heck they're doing. And that's needs to be defined by the National Hockey League. Once this becomes official, there needs to be I think they need to be very transparent as to what the ground rules are for if you are interested in being a logo sponsor on the team.
Yeah, I agree.
So the Sabres will be sponsored by Ginsu 9.
And it does look like the NBA does sell them without. So they do.
Right. And they also do this in soccer. So the option is there if you don't want it. And you don't have to pay anything for that. But again,
as long as you don't have to pay anything more for it, I'm fine with it. If they charge more because it's all of a sudden they're selling more with the thing, then I would have an issue.
For European soccer is that it looks like a very spare jersey because of the fact that the team crest where the ad in an NBA or NHL team would be. So that's the issue.
I do think that when we were young, the boards had no advertisements. And when the advertisements on the board started, it was an abomination. Now you hardly even notice it. The only time you notice it is when in between periods, when the crew comes out and changes and slaps on a billboard for the second period. That's the only time you notice it. I think even though it's a jersey that we're going to see, I think it'll sort of blend in. If it gets to the point of European hockey teams, like
that's the whole thing doesn't.
I agree. But again, European hockey teams those teams do not generate the like KHL may have a sponsor, but again, it's very similar to what the NHL has because it depends on whatever the financial backing is of the league.
Exactly.
Yeah, the KHL has one like the money truck. Yeah.
And I'm trying to find out. I've got like 2 or 3 owner friends, I'm trying to find out what they're pricing, what they're thinking about what is there like a lower limit? Like it has to be at least this amount of dollars, or is there going to be, I'm sure it's going to be different per team. I'm sure
I would think
it'll be different per team.
Or will they make it? I mean, the NHL could unify it, but I don't think they would.
They won't do that.
But I think I'm sure there will be a lower limit to some point.
It's all going to go to hockey related revenue, though. That's the whole thing. It's got to be.
I don't know about that.
I would think.
I wouldn't be shocked if there was a deal
might just go to the teams.
Made that goes to the teams until like some kind of shortfall is made up. I think the feeling on this right now and how they're selling this right now, according to the one owner I talked to today, was that this is a way of making back money that's been lost. Right. So like the idea is that maybe that this doesn't, the joke, and he laughed at it too. It's like, well, when you make your money back, you're just going to take these ads off. And I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen because it doesn't ever work that way. Right. But whether or not there's a deal that, until, that this just goes to the owners until a certain amount of money has been made or until whatever has happened. I mean, and it's questionable as how much money can really be made on this too. Like, I mean, we're not talking major money here. I don't think. I mean, we're talking
I don't think they would be considering this unless it would be.
Yeah, no, you're talking major money.
You're talking about 23 moving billboards.
Right.
Yeah, but is it going to be enough to like pay a second line left wing? I think
it'll be a third liner.
A third liner. Yeah.
I think it would be a couple $1 million a year, at least.
Yeah, I mean that's something for sure. And it's it's something that's just sitting out there.
All that free advertising act you're talking about, they're gonna ask a nice.
I would think so, but I never found out. I wish I knew what the helmet ads went for. I've been trying to find out. They've been very great about this.
The helmet ads, especially for the ones like, for example, like I said, Scotiabank for the Leafs, that covered the shortfall because Scotiabank was losing money on 13 games of revenue of Scotiabank Arena being mentioned as part of the. I bet you anything it was a saw off. It was a break even, and it wasn't that they got additional revenue. It was like Scotiabank lost out on 13 games, regular season games for the Leafs, and they put the advertising on there to make up for the fact that the name wasn't mentioned on broadcast TV 13 times. I'll bet you anything it was pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I'm sure those deals are always being made for sure. That that's being discussed. And it's just a way of like, hey, don't bother us because look the other way or whatever. But yeah, I think that I don't think this is horrible. I mean, people are losing their minds over it today. I just don't think it's as horrible as people.
I'll tell you why they're losing their minds, and I'm not losing my mind. I was just talking about the commercial side of it.
Yeah.
But people are losing their minds because there was a time when the NHL said we'll never do this.
Yeah. Well, there was a time when
there was a time.
I know. No.
Change.
I'm giving
you're right.
you an explanation as to why people are acting like that.
Oh no, for sure, Russ, you're right. I mean, people do hold everybody, but like every statement by everybody has an expiration date on it, and in this case, we also have a pandemic to talk about. So like to me, that's an easy out to that. Saying, listen, we never knew we would play a whole season without making any money. And pay the players and without batting in a second. I mean, there's a lot of things that they did, which is really kind of amazing. So in reality, for them to do this, I'll allow it. Like in my mind, and as much as I'm a purist too, and I would not want a jersey with a logo on it for sure. That's for sure. But hey, I mean, advertising is a reality. And people are talking about ad blockers and things like that they get on. Advertising is a reality, and I hate ads as much as the next person. And by the way, if you become a season ticket to HockeyBuzz.com, you don't see any advertising at all. That's it. That's $19 a year. No, not a single ad will pop up on your page. I'm just saying. I think that's a pretty good deal for $20. Not a single ad will show up on your page.
I wish it worked that way for YouTube.
I know. Once you pay that, I mean, I'd pay that. YouTube has that too, but it's a lot more expensive than that. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, the Leafs should have like the Lemony Snicket's logo on there for series of unfortunate events.
There you go.
That would be good advertising.
I think Google should now develop glasses that like you put on and that like block out any ad that's on a jersey when you're watching it. So you don't have to think about it. So it's just an ad blocker glasses. Special like glasses. There you go. That all ads, like billboards, everything you see wherever you walk is it's turned into something that you like. Like a picture of a nice puppy or something. That's my idea for today. $1 million idea. My friends out there, Google, go for it. See what we can do. All right, let's move on to actual hockey talk. Because I have been chasing a Max Domi rumor for the last couple of days, which is not a fun thing to do. But I've been doing it anyway. And I can say this, that, we've been talking about, Max Domi's on the block, he's on the trade block and everything like that. And we talked a while ago saying, hey, could he go back to Montreal? Montreal has a tendency. They loved him in Montreal. The fans loved him in Montreal. They were sad to see him go. And as it turns out, the discussions have taken place over the last couple of days between the two teams. Just preliminary, just, exploratory, as it was told to me. But there's definitely a possibility that Max Domi could return to Montreal. Now, we know they have cap issues, and everything like that. But everybody has cap issues. So, is this the place where he could actually go back and succeed, Russ? Do you think this is something could this turn him back around?
I don't think so. I think there's too much pressure there. I don't know if there's the right fit for him. Like, are you going to put him on the wing there? Is that where he's going to play?
Well, no. The whole reason for this being possible at all is that to replace Danault, and he's a completely different.
Yeah, no, that's too much. You see, he's not going to work out like that. It's going to be a horrible idea.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense here is the fact that he's got a year left in his contract, and maybe Columbus would be willing, Anthony, to retain 50% of his salary because he's not going to play probably until Christmas.
Yeah, until around Christmas time, I was told.
So
maybe a little bit earlier. It depends on how everything goes.
And again, he's not having a different coach now too.
Yeah,
you do have to take that into account there. I mean, there are still a number of those players who were there when he was there. So
yeah,
he's not a center. He's not a center.
If you're looking at him as a Danault replacement, I agree. He is definitely not that.
Yeah, he's 48% on faceoffs.
No, that's not going to work.
No, just say no to that
Major
one.
drop off from what you had from Dano.
Yeah, I agree. No, that. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I still, I don't know. Maybe because he's such a good guy, and I'm pulling for him. I can root for him deep down. I want this guy to turn it around.
I love his talent. He's got a lot of talent. I was talking to Russ about this earlier. The problem is he's a smallish player, and now he's got an injury history, and he's been breaking down. And a smallish player getting beat up in this league. Yeah. When he starts to lose a step, then he loses the one advantage that made him an above average player. Is if he's an average skater, or if he's slowed down by other things, then that really kills him. So I mean, I think the $5.3 million salary also kills him. But if they retain 50%, they might be able to move him.
Yeah, there you go. And I think I do think that's possible. I've also the other thing I wanted to get into before we get to some prospects today with Russ. And then I've got I think we'll hold off on the Olympic thing until maybe tomorrow. We were going to talk about that. I think maybe that's tomorrow's topic because we're already at 1:40. And I do have another thing I want to throw out there a little bit at the end.
Well, yeah, we can talk. Tomorrow we'll do the Olympic goalies for each of the countries.
I think that's what that'll be fun to do that tomorrow. We're going to start talking about the Olympic teams a little bit, guys, too. But we're going to also hit the prospects. I've got one, I think, interesting topic to discuss at the end that I haven't given you guys yet because I wanted to kind of throw it at you. And it's not something we normally discuss, but I think it's very hockey related and sports related and stuff like that. So I want to get to it. But anyway, let's start, Russ, with you. What do we have to say on our prospect list?
All right, so we're doing Sabres.
Yeah.
We'll get Owen Power out of the way first in the sense that he could play in the NHL if he wanted to. I think what he's doing with Michigan is better because I don't like when first round picks are getting thrust into the NHL. And so I think this is better. I also think, why not give him a chance to win a national championship? I think that's a great thing to have on a resume.
What a team that's going to be, right? I mean, geez,
he has a good season in Michigan and everything goes well and he keeps playing solid defense. He was one of the shot blocking leaders too in college hockey and he's a scorer. So if he continues to do all that, Michigan has a good season. It's possible you'll see him in the NHL at the end of the year and then burn that first year of ELC and all those other things that he'll be entitled to do. I think there's a good chance that happens. I think he is a top pairing defenseman in the future. And I do think if they're able to hold on to Dahlin and get him signed to this long-term deal, you now finally have something. No slight to Ristolainen, but this is now, you're talking about two big defensemen, both really good with the puck. Mm-hmm. Dahlin obviously still better offensively, but Power has his own gifts offensively. And that's a hell of a first pairing, and that's something the Sabres haven't had in a lot of years.
And this is what the Sabres have to do is fight against what they normally do. And what they normally do is you bring in the Power, and that gives you an excuse to trade Dahlin. No, you keep both of them. You need both of them to be the cornerstone of your future team. Yeah. And they've got other defensemen in the organization like Samuelson, who I think will be pretty good in a couple years. But the key to their future is Dahlin and Power as a 1-2 combo.
Yeah, I mean, to answer Simon in the chat room, he goes, bold prediction, Samuelson will be better. That's not that bold of a prediction. I mean, Jake Sanderson's got a super high ceiling. So
people said that.
I think that's, a lot of people might say that. We don't know the answer. But I think this is good for the Sabres. And add Samuelson, and then now all of a sudden we're talking about, having 4 good defensemen on this team with Yoki-Haru at some point. And that's something they haven't had in a while, and that will definitely add to their team. Now, the number 2 guy, and the guy who I think is closest to breaking out, is J.J. Paterka, not Jack Quinn. And there's a reason for Quinn. Quinn did struggle early on in the AHL. I know he had 8 points in his last 10 games, but the goaltending was bad in the AHL, and he wasn't even a point a game at the end. And honestly, it wasn't like he was really making waves in Rochester where people were like, you got to watch Jack Quinn. None of that was going on.
Yeah.
Where Paterka has played his second season now in the DEL, has definitely fixed his defense a little. And I think his 2-step quickness is much better because I think that's something that dropped him out of the first round because he always had the moves. He always had a great shot. But I saw some video of him in the playoffs, and he was able, again, it's a little bigger ice sheet, but he wasn't at the farthest end of the ice on the outside. And he was able to just motor past the defenseman with just 2-step quickness. Now, if he's got that going in his game, is a guy who will be very dangerous at the NHL level. Could be 65-point guy, and I don't know when Quinn will turn into that guy, if he turns into that guy, and that's why I say that. Yeah.
Well, that's the question, because we had our previous show we had Joe Yurden on, and he was puzzled by the fact that the Sabres, for some strange reason, moved Quinn to center at the American
weird.
Yeah, and he's not a center, and they basically drafted him to be a sniper, and then all of a sudden, they could have drafted who is it, Rossi or
Marco Rossi, a center.
Right, and they didn't do that, or Perfetti, and they didn't do that either, and they drafted Quinn. Okay, so it
You're looking at a change from GMs to that.
No, it was
the second one GM drafted him, another.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't. That's an org. I mean, it was an organizational.
A lot of the same scouting staff was still there.
Yes,
yeah, but sometimes they anyway.
No, I mean that's fair.
Now the interesting thing is that they have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's their number one prospect goaltender wise.
Definitely one of my favorite names in the NHL, right?
Yes, UPL. And
Ukko-Pekka
Luukkonen, and then Devin Levi, who they just got in the trade in the Reinhardt deal from Florida. So they have two pretty decent goaltending prospects, but they're years old. Both of them are probably years away. I mean, they're
going to force Pekka Luukkonen next year.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing. I mean, they've got this Methuselah pair in Anderson and Dell, and
they may even bring up Pekka Luukkonen mid-season when that pair dissolves in front of our very eyes. Because
is he closer than Levi though?
Yeah, Levi's probably 3 years away.
Yeah,
Luukkonen's probably
good.
Luukkonen they may force in this year.
He's probably 2 years away.
Good. I don't think he's great, but he could be a lot better. Pekka Luukkonen, I think, has a higher ceiling. He overcame some mental issues that I felt like he had in the World Juniors. He did the second time he was in some big games. He overcame that. He overcoming an injury.
Yeah, and injury issues. He had a hip surgery, so that was he missed most of the year with that.
And he's got that size for a big goalie that you want. And so I do think he has a better pedigree than and so they had things in place so where in 2 to 3 years we could say, I see the Sabres getting better, but between now and then it's going to be a little ugly.
Yeah. I mean, that's for sure, and it's been a little ugly, but hopefully, I think Sabres fans, at least if Sabres fans can see things moving the right way, I think that they
won't be with the NHL this year, because with the Eichel stuff and everything else, it's still going to be ugly.
It's still going to be ugly. I mean, I do think that, like what they did at the end of last year is what they sort of have to continue doing, like just being like the underdog that comes in and, everybody, and, go for the, not tank, but, go for allow that first pick to fall to you if it does. And just be the team that's like, at least the Sabres in the last month were fun to watch. At least they had something. At least that you saw younger players doing things. You saw,
and that's fair. I mean, Middlestat definitely did better, but
Renato had him going.
What the dark day is going to be? The dark day is going to be if Eichel doesn't get traded here, which again, every day that it doesn't happen, it doesn't look good for the short term. There's going to be a day where all of a sudden, either before camp or the first day of camp, where he's just like, I can't go to camp, I'm injured. And then you don't see Jack Eichel for months.
And I do have some Eichel news too. I wrote about today. So I wrote over the weekend, and I've been tracking this a lot of the pressure that's on Vegas to make this move to try to. I've been talking to some people internally, and I've got some good sources now in Vegas. After a while, it takes time to develop them, but I finally feel like I have some really good ones there, and they're talking to me a lot about the pressure to trade for Eichel. Or Zibanejad is another player that they've talked about, but the pressure to get a big center that they can obviously the owner there wants to win now. He's getting old, and he's put the pressure on it. And like we talked about before, that trade they made was not, that was not the trade. So apparently there were close to like 5 pieces involved in the Eichel thing, and last week they had 3 of the pieces with Buffalo basically worked out. There was one big piece we've talked about before, the one prospect that
Peyton Krebs.
And that's the one that's holding it up, right? But there was another one too. It was a draft pick, and I think it was like between a second and first round draft pick or whatever that they were throwing around. And apparently Vegas has given in to that other, so we're down to like the final piece now, and it really is just Krebs now. Like that is what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know how. The only way I could state this is it would be horrific for them to include him in the deal, especially if Eichel is 75% of what Jack Eichel is in the future. Horrific, simply because Peyton Krebs may then become a better point producer than Jack Eichel. Like, if that happens, this trade goes completely upside down, especially if they don't win a cup. The problem with this trade is, how am I supposed to believe that they're going to win a cup when Eichel's going to come into the season 2 to 3 months late, rusty, because he hasn't played in well over, I mean, it's going to be a year at that point, probably more than that, and win me a cup.
Their feeling there is that they are a playoff team no matter what, because the division's terrible, right? So they can make it a while without him. They can as long as they have him going by the playoffs, that's all they care about.
Okay, so let's say he comes back in, I don't know, we'll say January. How do we know by the playoffs he'll be playing like the old Jack Eichel? Like, we don't.
But if there's one town that'll gamble, it's Vegas, right? So this is the mentality that's there. I've been told that this is the mentality they have. You're going to take a shot. We have a shot. We have a chance. If we can get Eichel, who a lot of people think at his top is definitely not McDavid, but maybe Matthews. Maybe Matthews and Eichel are on the same. I don't
think they are anymore.
I don't believe that, but if Eichel's 100%, if Eichel does get back to 100%, you can argue that they are pretty darn close.
Yeah, the question is he ever going to be 100%? And I don't know.
Gamble again. Gamble question. We don't know. But I think that he is definitely in that world. Of Matthews now. And anybody that they're going to trade for is probably not. Anybody that they're going to trade away is probably not. Like even Krebs, he's probably not in the Matthews, able to hit the Matthews potential even at his best, right? So here we go.
So here's what we do know, Eric. Before Eichel went out, he was under a point a game, even at that point. So that's something that had never happened in his career until like the first couple of years, his first 2-3 years. Yeah. Then he became more than a point a game player. So he dropped back down to that. He has never been a 50% faceoff guy yet.
Yeah, no, but make no mistake about it. This is Buffalo, and people are looking at points relatively.
So it's not like he's going to get better on faceoffs just because
he's not going to get better in a different team, right? For sure. But this is like the Ristolainen argument. How much is Buffalo holding Eichel back?
And he played fewer minutes last year. He would normally, the year before, he was playing up to 22 minutes. He only played a little over 20. So even this as a healthy until he went out, Jack Eichel is what we got.
Yeah. We think he was healthy, but was he really healthy at all last year? That's the other question, right? Like, I doubt.
Are we getting back to the 82 point Jack Eichel?
That's what we're trying to do. It's not impossible.
No, nothing's impossible, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess that's what what it comes down to is, listen, he is as good a center. It's rare that you can pick up a center like this with even
he's
this.
He's as good a scoring center. He's still not good at faceoffs. Like, he's not an all-around center yet. No,
he's really not. He's to me, Messier was great at faceoffs, obviously.
Yes, and he cheated. He was good at it.
And he was cheated. But I do, when Eichel's at his best, I kind of felt he had a Messier element to his game. There
were some things there.
He really reminded me, especially of the kind of that lilting wrist shot that Messier had that Eichel has too. That just will just freeze a goalie.
Eichel has an extremely strong skating, even though it's unusual skating stride, but
very, very unusual.
But he's a strong skater. He's good in the corners. But he's 23. I think 23 or 24. The face-off aspect of his game should have developed by now. And if it hasn't, not to say it's impossible for him to improve. He's probably going to be an average face-off guy for the rest of his career.
He might be, but he could be well above average in every other thing.
There were 2 seasons where Zibanejad was at least at 52%.
Yeah.
He's dropped for the last couple of years, but you could say maybe it's because of the team too. Because a lot of times when guys are winning face-offs, it's the other guy next to him that ends up getting the face-off.
Yeah, and that is true. So I think that if there's any team that's going to take a chance now, it's Vegas. Any other team, I think, is going to wait and see. That's really where I think the whole thing's at right now. I think the Rangers are going to wait and see. You guys probably saw that. Did you see that billboard, Mike, that's up there in Buffalo?
Yeah, it's weak.
Yeah, it's very weak. But it's like, it's the Rangers podcast is advertising. The Rangers aren't going to do anything, I was told, until they know how his health is. They're just not. They're past that point. There was a point at which
they're not going to take him sight unseen.
Right, they're not going to. And Minnesota's not going to take him sight unseen, although Minnesota still has a huge interest in him.
So if that happens, Zach, these guys who saved their pennies for the billboard just wasted their money.
Oh, for sure. No question about it. But, hey, it's a fun promotional thing. I give him credit. It's silly enough.
No, and, silly. There's no doubt.
And all hail podcasters out there, give them like, hey.
Attention. So that's what they were looking for.
They got attention, and, that we know the podcasts don't make a whole lot of money in the first place. So, hey, go for it. So there, I hail them. I mean, it was silly enough. But anyway, I think that the only team that Buffalo can talk to right now that keeps this going is Vegas. And that might be bad for Buffalo in a lot of ways, because really what Buffalo might need is for all teams to say, we're not doing anything until
I agree with that, actually.
Until this is ready. But that's not happening.
The only thing that's going to get them to move on this.
Right. But that's not happening yet. And I think that is part of the problem right now. So I think that so the question is, we are in this standoff of will Vegas just go for it and say, what the heck, he's going to be fine. We'll take that gamble. We'll let him get the surgery.
What was the timeline again? If he got the surgery he wanted,
the timeline for the disc replacement was approximately 6 weeks. That he would be able to resume physical activity within 6 weeks.
Physical activity, but not a hockey game.
Well, no, I mean, I would assume you'd ramp up, so probably close to 2 months, maybe.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean,
with the fusion, it was 3 months. So the Sabres actually want him to have a surgery that'll take him longer to recover from, but it's accepted.
It's more known. It's more of a known thing. But in this day and age, it's a little bit backwards at the Sabres. From what I've been hearing, this surgery is. I mean, fusion has its own issues. I know that. We all.
Johnny Red has talked about it. His wife has had a bunch of them apparently.
I have 2 herniated discs in my back, and they every year try to get me to do it. When I have going to pain, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I want to still be able to move around a little bit. I'll take the pain that I get. So yeah, it's fusion's not perfect by any stretch. So this, I guess, is the devil you know versus the devil you don't know type situation. But the reality is, I think that Eichel is I think the Sabres should just let him do it. I think that's what they're going to do. I honestly do. I think at the end of the day they're going to, because I don't think they have a choice.
I don't think they're going to.
I don't think they have a choice, because otherwise they are throwing out the baby with the bathwater essentially. And because it's going to come to that point. Eichel has no reason to do anything. He can sit there and
but he'll lose the season. He doesn't want that, and the Sabres are using that against them.
Think of it this way. If they're still at loggerheads and they go to mediation, and the mediation says, well, the Sabres are well within their rights to have you do surgery that they determine is the best course of action, then the only thing Eichel can do is deny them his services, meaning he doesn't go to training camp. Right. Now, that would make no sense for him because he's hurt. He would go on IR if he went to training camp, so what is he going to do? Is he going to force them to terminate his contract? Then he's giving up $50 million. It's a stalemate right now. And somebody I talked to said, I mentioned a term of coercive malpractice, meaning the player doesn't have the surgery. But the thing is, that's covered in the CBA. If you want somebody to blame here, blame the NHL Players Association, because they gave up the right of an individual player to be able to go out and have the surgery that they want when they're under contract.
That's absurd that they gave up that right. First of all, secondly, that the NHL would even. I mean, I know the reasons we talked about the way it's been cheated around before, but I know this is not this the way it's in the CBA, not because of situations like Eichel's. Unfortunately, that's why the NHL needs to step up and say, okay, the Sabres have to step up and say, this guy should be allowed to do what he thinks is best. I mean, no one has more to lose in this than Jack Eichel. I mean, he has more to lose than the Sabres have to lose by far. I mean, he has his all the money he's got. I mean, the Sabres will move on. They'll find a way to play games and they'll, compete eventually. But Jack Eichel has a ton to lose here. So if he's willing to do the surgery, I don't think there's a reason in the world they should stop him. He's not a dumb guy.
But Eck, in the end, the Sabres, for example, God forbid, Jack Eichel has the surgery and he can't play ever again. Say the surgery goes badly, the Sabres are on the hook for $50 million in terms of the insurance. But and the insurance company may not sign off on him having, quote, an experimental surgery.
No, they'll give him trouble for that. There's no question.
Yeah, that's the whole.
Yeah, no, they will. But I mean, I as having a son who has had to have all kinds of experimental things done over the years, I know what that's like. I know what that's like to fight with the insurance companies like that, for sure. No questions about it. But eventually, you can get through it.
And Terry and Kim Pagula right now, with the financial strife that they're under. I mean, not with the Bills, because the Bills are the NFL and they bring in tons of money, but they've lost tons of money on the Sabres the last few years. They're not going to risk taking a loss of a significant portion of $50 million over the next 5 years on an experiment, on what they deem as an experimental surgery. They're going to say, okay, have the surgery that we say you should have. And if Jack Eichel doesn't want to have it and he wants to sit out and possibly terminate his contract, be my guest. But they're not.
Here's the thing that's interesting about that, Mike. You're right. I mean, you're right. And what it brings up this case here, okay, the way this reads, they can make him not get the surgery he wants to get.
Correct.
But they can't make him get the surgery they want to get.
Correct.
Right. So at the end of the day, like you've said before, Mike, he could just rehab this and just be like, okay.
He supposedly has tried that and it hasn't gotten any better.
Right. And it hasn't been working. So this is, to me, that even though this is in the CBA, it feels inherently unconstitutional in some way, shape, or form. Like it feels like this could be challenged. Like it feels like legally the CBA could be challenged.
But it could drag on in court.
It's collectively bargained, actually.
But when collectively bargained, but don't we have things with unions when they're collectively bargained to be
Very
dangerous?
rarely, yeah.
To be dangerous to the people around. I mean, it feels like that there might be. There's
I'll
always
tell you what
that.
it is. And look, my knowledge is limited, but I hear this a lot. A lot of times, these judges do not want to set precedents for things of that nature.
Right.
It's hard to find one that is willing to do that.
Yeah, but to sit there and say that your company is not allowing you to get the surgery that your doctors are recommending you get is that's really shaky.
He signed off on that.
He didn't
sign off on that, Russ. He signed off.
He signed off on that.
No, because the way the thing reads in the CBA is more designed towards, players who are just hanging on and refusing to get surgeries because they are, collecting paychecks or whatever. That the spirit of that, you as a lawyer, you could argue the spirit of that agreement is not merited in this situation. Because this is a guy who's trying to play, and he's willing to take action. Right, there was a player.
He's not the first player to ever have some sort of surgery where he's trying to come back and play. That's why this is in there.
Right. I mean,
no, but he's not but he's the first. Can you remember a situation before where a player has been denied the surgery he wanted?
Jared Cowan.
That's why this is in there.
Right, but that situation, if I remember right, was more about he could hang on.
No.
Collecting a check, wasn't it?
Okay, what it was, and I'll be brief on this. What it was Cowan was entering the final year of his contract. He was traded in the Dion Phaneuf deal. The Leafs medical staff said, "You're healthy, and you're not playing for the rest of the season because we want to buy you out."
Right.
Now, Cowan said he had a back injury, or I think it was a back injury,
right?
And he got a second opinion from a doctor, which at that point he could do that. And then he hadn't had the surgery. And because he had the surgery, the Leafs couldn't buy him out. Well, the Leafs grieved it because they said, we told you we thought you were healthy. We just were going to buy you out. And you did the surgery to prevent us from buying you out. And of course, Lou was general manager at that point. And, I'm sure Lou knew every rule that was in the book at that point. And after it was, looked upon by an arbitrator. The arbitrator was in favor of the Leafs, and then so they in the new CBA they had this written in that the team. If the team is paying your salary, they have the right to determine the best course of action for any kind of surgery. And
you think about how dangerous that is, like in general. Like, I mean, take it out of the context of the NHL. Let's go to the Steelworkers Union. And let's say this was drawn in there. The Steelworker Union, since the company's paying your salary, they can tell whether or not you need to be you can get a surgery, or whatever you need.
It's not like they're saying we think you should have a surgery to cut off both of your arms.
No, but I'm just saying, if the second companies control what you can do for your health.
It's not companies. This is a sport. And
It's
the
a company.
difference is but it's different. I mean, if a guy's got a workman's comp case and he has to go back to work in a factory, it's not the same demands as a guy who's got to be on the ice with guys trying to take his head off, skating at 20 miles an hour. It's not the same. And what I think they were trying to do when they put this in there is, as an example,
yeah,
like Eichel had gotten some advice from some of his family members, one family member, and that family member may not be fully up to date with everything that's going on in the surgical world compared to a team who not only has a team doctor, and we know the deal about team doctors, but also access to a lot of other doctors because of a lot of other players. And they generally are very well in the know. Like if I was a player and I went to my parents for advice and they went to the doctor that whatever, somebody here recommended, says he's the best in the area, he's probably still not the best that they could get their hands on.
Right. And
that's the difference.
And in the case here, Eichel is looking at what will be better for him in the short term and the long term. And what he is saying is the team is only looking at what's better in the short term, meaning, accepted surgery, and maybe 20 years down the road, I'm going to have arthritis in my neck because I had fusion rather than having the disc replacement. But the disc replacement is not an accepted procedure for NHL hockey players. And that is the whole, I will bet you anything. The whole reason that the Sabres are fighting back against this is an insurance issue and nothing more.
Yeah. I'm
insurance and lawyers act. That's the way.
No, I'm not saying it's not insurance and lawyers, but I'm also saying that the potential, if Eichel gets the right kind of lawyers here to drag the NHL and the Sabres through like a situation that the NHL wants nothing to do with, is great.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that if Eichel has, goes that direction, the NHL and the NHLPA will be on the same side because they agreed to a collective bargaining agreement, and every player who's a member of that union is locked in to the precepts of that CBA. He's locked in. If you're taking $10 million a year from the Buffalo Sabres, you do what they say. If that's not what they say, then give up the $10 million.
No, but that's not. You can't. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous because these guys are making that kind of money, Mike. But there's just.
No. I'm just saying
we have laws against things like this.
I know, but Eck, when you're
this is a private company. The NHL is a private company. The players all signed off for this, Eck.
Yes.
It's not like they didn't know about it.
I don't think they knew. I think what they signed off on the situation that you are talking about, Mike, which while it is similar, is not the same thing as what's happening here.
That's why you have people to look it over and then you go and vote. Right?
Yeah, but to me, the loopholes are, the CBA is all about loopholes, right? There's an easy way, there's loopholes in this. I'm sure
clearly there's not, because it would have been presented already.
I don't know. I mean, I think
the only course of action that hasn't been taken right now is mediation. But if the mediator says, okay, it's not unreasonable for the Buffalo Sabres to recommend an accepted procedure that will work to fix Jack Eichel's neck, and it is unreasonable to go down the road of an experimental surgery, in quotes.
Yeah, but
if it goes down that road, then Eichel has got no recourse other than to deny his services, and he's not going to play anyway because he's hurt. That's the whole point here. But I'm telling you, if he is bound and determined to want to have this risky surgery, then him and the Sabres, I bet you, goes the way of terminating his contract. Then the Sabres get nothing for him, and he gets considerably less than $10 million a year for the next 5 years. Does he really want to go down that road?
Nope.
Or he could get. I mean, listen. Here's the other thing too. Like, he could terminate his contract, become a UFA, get the surgery, prove that he's 100% again, and get more than that for the next 5 years. It's like,
what his agent would tell him?
You're not
get another agent.
You're not.
No, I know, but again, it's a hockey player. Jack Eichel is and Jack Eichel is not a shy hockey player. He's not, and I've been around him enough to know that he's going to dig his feet in. The reason you like Jack Eichel is because he's the kind of guy who will dig his feet into situations.
I think this situation has backfired on Eichel because I think he wanted to use the medical situation to force his way out of Buffalo. And now Buffalo is saying, no. We're not trading you unless we get value for you. And the only way we get value for you is if you're healthy and you can only do the surgery that we want you to do.
Right.
Remember, the key thing of all of this, too, besides the injury, is
I need to get a lawyer on.
No power over what team he goes to because the NMC hasn't kicked in yet.
And if he denies
terminated.
Well, if he denies his services, could this be a ploy just to push the time to where the NMC does kick in? And then the leverage goes back to him because then
it's all him. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the only thing he's got going for him right now, because that's the only thing that's enabling him to play this game right now, according to you guys. Is that basically what you just said?
It's not according to us. This is how it is.
No, but I'm saying, yeah, and I get I get that you're saying this is how, and I get all that, but I do think I do need to talk to somebody about this further, like a lawyer about this.
The only thing I would say is this: he's a young guy. The chances are the reason he's not terminating the contract is because he's probably not set for life yet, and he's also nervous about his neck too. No, but the idea is he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got $50 million.
I know.
You'll be leaving on the table, and that is a risk you do not want to take.
Precisely, I get that, and he's.
Why do you think he would do that?
I think he
will never make $50 million again.
I think he could threaten it, because I think that's the situation is the Sabres get nothing if he does it, right? So,
and
if he's confident enough about the surgery, he could threaten this. Now if he's not confident about the surgery and worried about his neck, just like the Sabres are, then you're not gonna break a contract for $50 million because I might never be a good player again. I get that, but I don't think that's Eichel's MO, like the way he thinks. So at the same, we
don't know what his financial situation is.
No, but we don't. But I think I could already see him. I can see him threatening it, because it's a threat the Sabres would have to take seriously, because they would lose him for nothing.
Here's an even greater emphasis in terms of his contract. July 1st, 2022. The no move clause comes on, and he gets a $7.5 million signing bonus.
Yeah.
Sabres probably do not want to pay the 7.5 if you base it on what happened with Ryan O'Reilly, and they are then limited by who they can trade him to.
And he doesn't get a bonus the next year.
No, he doesn't get a bonus the remaining four. The remaining three.
No, it says 7.50, 7.5, Mike.
No, that was last year, and then next year. The last 3 years of the deal, he has no bonus.
2022, 23, 7.5.
So how is it?
That's what I'm talking about.
Mike, you're right, and I think. Okay, was it? I'm sorry. And you guys.
He has a signing bonus of $7.5 million next July. That's at the beginning of the 22-23 season. After that, the final 3 years of the deal, no signing bonus.
So we're talking 11 months from now.
Right.
Okay. Right. So that's when we're gonna.
The Sabres will have to, and that's why the Sabres want him to get the surgery now,
right?
Or
of course, right.
But the thing is, there are teams out there. I've heard reporting that there are teams out there that would basically say to Eichel, "Do whatever you think is best." But the problem is that those teams will not trade what the Sabres deem as equal value for Eichel. See that there's the quandary there. Though, like say a team like Minnesota, they want Rossi, they want Boldy, they want a first round pick. Okay, they're not going to give up all that for a guy who's got question marks about his neck. So the Sabres, to get full value, want him to get the surgery, but he doesn't want to have the surgery that the Sabres want him to have. It's the catch-22.
No, they're definitely in a loop. I see that, and it's.
All right, well, do some digging. I think
I want to talk to a couple people around. I want to talk to a couple of people, because I think that maybe I'll work on an article about this tomorrow, because I know some like I can talk to some NHL people. I can talk, and I think that there's within the spirit of the CBA is a big thing. And or it used to be even a bigger thing. Obviously, there was remember, the spirit of the CBA was like, you can't make a trade because that's not in the spirit of the CBA. That's going out the window. But the spirit of the CBA with this stuff like this is still a big thing. And I think that it's not going to be hard for them to loophole through this.
Honestly, if there was a loophole, I think it would have been explored already. I think this has gone on. Remember, this has gone on for now what, 4 months?
Yeah.
Since late March.
It has gone on for 4 months, but I think the Sabres miscalculated in a big way here, because I think, not that should be a shock to you, Mike, but I think they miscalculated in a big way here. And I try not to rip them as much as possible, but here I think they did. And I think that what's happening right now is that I think just recently, within like the last couple weeks, they're realizing this, because they're realizing no one is going to make that trade.
By the way, in the spirit of the CBA Act, Buffalo's still $8 million under the cap floor.
Right.
I think that there's been miscalculations on both sides here. I think there's there's plenty of things to criticize the Sabres about, but I do think that Eichel thought that based on what has happened in the past and how the Sabres have been pushed around and how the ownership has operated in terms of wanting to avoid spending money like they did in the Ryan O'Reilly deal, that Eichel's representatives thought that they could force his way out, and the Sabres are basically saying, screw you, we're getting our because they have to. They are.
Well, but he got to force his way out because of what the Sabres did. Eichel didn't want out. He didn't want out, and it was if they had let him get the surgery and this had not happened at all, he would be a good soldier soldiering on with the Buffalo Sabres.
No, he wants out of the Sabres.
He wants out now. Now he does. Now he does for sure, because what's happened.
He wanted out last year. Yeah. He did.
I don't buy that.
He wanted out for a year.
No, I mean, before this whole thing started with the neck and the way that whole thing has been treated, and then the way he felt like he was not kept in the loop when he was hurt, and all, there's different things that bothered him for sure. But before all that, he was perfectly willing to stay a Buffalo Sabre.
But this injury stuff has gone on since training camp, since December. So
you're looking at
Ralph Kruger misled the Buffalo media going as far back as training camp, saying, "Oh, he's not hurt at all," and he had injured himself before training camp. So there's been a lot of misleading on this whole situation.
Yeah, no, and I think that you sit there, the Sabres would have done it by now. When you say the Sabres would have done things by now, I think what you're going to see in the next couple of weeks is a change in the way the Sabres handle this, because I think that they're down to either, if they can't get Vegas to give up what they want them to give up here, they have no one to go to, is from what I've been told. And then at that point, and it sounds like, McCrimmon, and that's a big question. Like, that's a big if, because we don't know. Like, McCrimmon and Foley have done strange things. They might just say, fine, take him. But we know that the pressure is on Vegas now. Yeah,
because they traded Fleury, because now they traded the golden boy of that franchise that got them to the Stanley Cup final. They're going to have to come back this year and say, okay, here's our new golden boy. And if they determine that it's Jack Eichel, then they will give up Peyton Krebs and Alex Tuck and a number one and Nicholas Hague or whatever. But I don't know.
But see, this is the thing. The Vegas fans are probably become like the most spoiled hockey fans in the world, because when you think about it, they've literally have just like had nothing but success, right? They have seen nothing but good things, and them trading Fleury, they're like, well, we trust you guys. You guys have been really good about everything. We're a good team, so if you think we can trade Fleury, that's fine. We'll trade Fleury. But they assumed that they were getting Eichel when that trade happened. I talked to people out there, and the season ticket holder people are getting calls like, when are we trading for Eichel? I want to return my tickets, but when are we getting Eichel? That's like, they're literally getting, when is the Eichel announcement being made comments? Like there is an assumption. Sure. There's an assumption that that's the only reason we would have traded Fleury. That's what we're doing. That's how we're doing it. And I think recently, with the frustration or, and the talk, with Zibanejad, I think it partially is so that Vegas has some leverage. I think they want to say, well, we could get Zibanejad. We don't need to deal with you, Buffalo, anymore. Because I think that Buffalo knows the pressures that Vegas is under. So they're like, well, we can also get Zibanejad. So we don't, so that, I think that's partially what's going on, more than maybe even than Mikko's going to get traded. That could be more part of it than anything. But Mika, but I think that this is it's gonna be fascinating, because the way this plays out now, in the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to see huge changes with this. I think that the Sabres are going to have to either say, fine, get the surgery, or and just do it, or they're going to have to, if they say, Eichel's not going to get the fusion surgery no matter what, so he's going to either rehab it and he shouldn't be forced to get a surgery he doesn't want to get. I mean, that's like a different situation than telling him, like in Toronto, the guy got the surgery. It's different than Toronto saying you have to get the surgery. That's like a whole different ball of wax, I mean, ethically, that's a big difference, I think. So anyway, we'll see where it goes. But I know we're running out of time. We'll get to more things again tomorrow. I noticed guys in the chat room. There's a lot of new people in there. There's a lot of new people watching the show, which is wonderful. If you didn't know it, we are supported by only you guys. The only way this thing makes any money at all and keeps going, and so we can do this every day, and we continue doing it every day, even on the off season, even when everybody else goes to their cottage. We don't. We stay with you, and you're in our own little cottage here online. So you can go to patreon.com/hockey. That's Patreon, patreon.com/hockey. You know how to spell hockey. Go to patreon.com/hockey and support the show with like $5 a month or $2 a month or 10 or 20, whatever you get out of this. Give back a little bit. We'd appreciate it. Some more of you are starting to do it. It's starting to make a little bit more headway. Yes. We very much would appreciate it.
And the only cottage I have is cottage cheese.
Yes, our cottage is you. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you again tomorrow.